Hello there. In this video we're going to learn how to make an exercise called the funnel. And to start, we're going to go into the Onshape Learning Center and we're going to click on the pathway new to Onshape. I'm going to scroll all the way down to Introduction to Part Studios. And then we're going to scroll down to section 7 and get to the funnel. And there it is. Now I got to warn you, if you don't follow the instructions very closely on this one, it can go pretty badly. I actually had a lot of trouble with this one on my first try because you got to do exactly what they say. So hopefully I've learned my lessons and we can do this right this time. All right, so we're going to start by clicking on Next Page and getting into our instructions. So the first thing we're going to do is create a new document, set the workspace length default unit to inch and mass default unit to pounds. And we're going to rename the document and the Part Studio funnel. So let's go over to our Onshape main and create that document. So here's my document. It's called funnel. And I'm going to rename the Part Studio funnel just like they said. Okay, and remember they said to make sure everything was in inches and pounds. So I know I'm already in inches, kilograms. Let's change that to pounds. There we go. This is important just for the end when it's time to check if the part was made correctly or not. If you have it in the wrong mass unit, it will, well, you just won't get the right results. So anyways, let's go back and see what we're supposed to be doing here. So on the next slide, we're going to create a sketch for the handle and top on the top plane. Start a new sketch on the top plane, and then we're going to come back and look at this. So if I go to the top plane, I'm going to hover, right-click, select New Sketch, N to look normal to it, and P to hide the planes. Let's go back and see what we got here. Okay, so first of all, you can see there's the origin, and we've got two ovals that are both centered on the origin. One is 6 by 4 and the other is offset by 0.125. So I'm actually going to draw this construction line first and then I will do that. So let's go back in here, draw our construction line, select the line tool and the construction tool, hover, draw way to the right, and we'll accept that. And now let's make our ellipse, and you have to go into the circle tool, click the drop down, go to the bottom to make an ellipse. And let's double check. I think it was 6 by 4. Yeah, 6 wide by 4 high. So let's go over here and do that. I'm going to hover over the origin to get started. And you notice you can make it in any orientation, but I want mine lined up with my line. And so I'm going to go out about this far, because remember it is about 6. It's actually helpful if you try to draw as close to your final dimension as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and click, and I'm going to get up to about 4. It doesn't have to be perfect. And now I can actually type in my 6 and my 4, and I do have that perfectly laid out. Okay, I'm going to hit the escape tool and pull these dimensions over to the side so they're not in the way. And then I'm going to do an offset. And the offset was by 0.125. That's 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to find the offset tool, click that ellipse, grab the arrow, drag it to the inside, click, and then type 0.125. And there it is. And again, I'm going to hit escape and drag this dimension out a bit just so it's not in my way. Now the rest of our sketch involves 3 lines. If you notice, this one is connected to the endpoint of that construction line we made, which is dimension at 4.5. Now I think it would actually be smart to dimension at 4.5 first. So I'm going to click it, drag it down, make that 4.5, and then I'm going to go ahead and make those lines. So I'm going to go out here, hover over the exterior ellipse so it is coincident. I'm going to click. Now watch what I'm going to do here. I'm going to hover over that point for a second, and then I'm going to go straight up. And the effect of that is making it so it's already lined up in vertical to that point without having to go back and add a constraint later. So I'm going to click, drag down here, click again, come over here, and I know this is supposed to be symmetric, so I'm going to hover over that point and come straight down, and I'm going to double click to end it. Okay, and so I created a vertical constraint between these 2 points, and I've got this line already vertical going through there. Now I just have to go back and see what other dimensions and constraints I need. Okay, it looks like I need to make this end 1.5, and I need a 105-degree angle. So let's go back in here, and where is, oh, dimensions. So I'm going to go from here to here, make it 1.5, and I need a 105-degree angle. So I'll click this line and this line. Oh man, look how close I was already. Woo, I'm good. All right, and you notice, wow, it didn't go blue. We must be missing something. And let's see what it is. Now, one of the things that occurs to me is this probably needs to be the midpoint of this line. Oh, and they actually did a symmetric constraint. Let's try the symmetric constraint. I think that'll actually fix it. So I'm going to go ahead, grab that symmetric constraint, click that center line, click this line and that line, and bingo, now we got it. All right, so that's our sketch. I'm going to accept that. I'm going to go on to the next slide. Now this is tricky. Got to be, well, this actually isn't it. The next thing is tricky. Now we are going to extrude up. If you see that arrow right there, it's up by 0.125 inches. That is fairly straight, but I'm going to right click and do the isometric so it's easier to see what is up and what is down. So I'm going to click the extrude, get that part and get that part, and then I'm going to go over here and change that to 0.125. Okay, and you notice the arrow is up. That's what I want. So I'm going to accept that extrude. Now the next slide, this is the part I was talking about that's tricky. Read this very carefully. The loft feature requires several profiles to develop the correct shape. The loft starts underneath the rim. The key phrase, underneath the rim. Start a new sketch on the bottom face of the rim and handle. Offset an ellipse from the inner rim by 0.05 inches. So the mistake that people make is they make the sketch here, but they said the underside. So I'm going to right click and make a new sketch on the underside. I'm going to hit N to look at it normal. And then I'm going to get my offset tool, click that inner ellipse, drag this back so it goes in the other direction, come out here, click, and type 0.05. Okay, that is absolutely crucial. If you make it on the top plane, it's not the end of the world, or on the top face, I should say. It's not the end of the world because you can go back and change it later if that does become a problem, but it's better to start off with it right. So I'm going to accept that sketch, and again I'm going to rotate it around. That sketch is on the bottom of that part that we created. So now let's see what's next. Okay, we are going to offset the plane from the bottom. Create an offset plane for the bottom of funnel loft. Start a new plane feature with the focus in the entities in the field. Select the top plane. So the top plane is where we made that very first sketch, and then we're going to offset the plane down 3 inches. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. We're going to go back here. I'm going to select the plane tool. The entities, I'm going to click on the top plane right over here in the feature list. And if you notice, the arrow is pointed up. I want it the other way, and I want it 3 inches, and there it is. Okay, so that's the plane I want. Now they do want us to rename it if I'm not mistaken. Rename the plane lower plane. Now you can do that right in here. If you notice, if you hover over by the name, a little pencil appears. If you click on that, we can now type in the new name we want for that. And by the way, naming your features is helpful because later you're going to see, you don't want to see plane and plane and plane. It's too confusing. It's much easier to have some names for these things. Okay, now I'm going to actually show the top plane so we can see what we offset from, because the next part we are going to actually create a third plane. And the third plane is a different type of plane. Instead of offsetting it from one of the planes, we're going to actually make it right smack in the middle of the two planes. Okay, so start a new plane feature with focus on the entities field, select top plane and lower plane. Now that only makes sense if you select over here where it says mid plane. Mid plane means we're going to put a plane midway between two other planes that we select. And so I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I can see what's going on. I'm going to select the plane feature. I'm going to change it from offset to mid plane. And now I'm going to select both the top and the lower plane. And there it is. You see that plane just popped in right smack in the middle. And I'm going to rename it mid plane. And there it is. The mid plane. Okay, moving forward. On the next slide, we're going to sketch a loft profile on the middle plane. So start a new sketch on the middle plane. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to do that, but it's going to start looking a little cluttered over there. So I'm going to right click on the mid plane, create that new sketch, hit N to make it normal, and you notice there's just a lot of things stacked on top of each other. I'm going to actually hide the lower plane. And that way it's just a little bit less to look at. And when I go back, I'm supposed to be creating a circle with its center offset and horizontal from the origin. So the diameter is 2.5 and the offset is 0.5. So let's do that. So I'm going to go ahead and get my circle tool. You notice it's still on ellipse. Well, that's okay. We can hit the drop down menu, go back to our circle. I'm going to hover over the origin so I can lock it into that. Go over here, drag out, and it's about 2.5, right? So I'm going to get close to it, and then I'm going to type 2.5. There are no surprises. I'm going to hit escape so I can drag that dimension out of the way. And now I'm going to add a dimension of 0.5 between the two. And I'm going to put that down here so it's also out of the way. Oop, and I missed. I typed 0.5. No biggie. Double click, type what I really want, and bingo, we're good to go. And now I can accept that sketch. All right, next, we are going to sketch a loft profile on the lower plane. So start a new sketch on the lower plane. Draw a circle with its center horizontal from the origin. Add the dimensions as shown and accept the sketch. So this time, same thing. Horizontally oriented to the origin, but this time it's a 0.5 diameter and 0.75 offset. So let's go back in, and this time I'm going to hide the mid plane now and unhide the lower plane. Okay, I'm also going to hide my sketch 2. Was that sketch 2 I wanted to unhide? I guess, or no, sketch 3. Yeah, the one I just made. And I'm going to hide the top plane. Too many things to look at. So now I'm going to right click on the lower plane, create a new sketch, and again we want to hover over the origin, bring that out here, make a circle that is 0.5, and then we're going to dimension that offset at 0.75, and bingo. All right, now we got another sketch. We're going to come over here, and if you said, we're going to start a new loft feature and select solid. Select the add tab and add it to the existing part. With focus in the profiles field, select the profiles in order from top to bottom or bottom to top. Under end condition, select normal to profile for start profile and an end profile connection. Set the start magnitude to 0.5 and end magnitude to 1. Okay, there's just a lot of stuff. We just need to make it match this. Now, there is a problem which is hard to see and hard to know about, and I actually had to do research to figure this out. But there's a thing that will get in your way and prevent you from doing this properly. What we have to do is we have to go back to sketch 2. I'm going to double click. I'm going to hit N, and I'm going to hide the part and show you something. See how it still has the profile of that part in there? That is going to cause us problems when we go to do the loft. What we need to do is click on this thing that says disable imprinting. It is not in the instructions. That's a mistake, by the way. It should be in the instructions, because if you don't do it, This is going to give you nothing but trouble. And I actually had to Google it to figure it out because it was driving me insane. So now I'm going to accept that and go back, and there's our cool looking, I guess you call them array of sketches. And I'm actually going to unhide the part because I think it's easier to see what's going on if you do that. Now we're going to get the loft feature. So we're going to click on that. And let's go back to the instructions and make, before we click on all the profiles, let's make it match. First of all, I know we're adding it to the current part. Okay, and down here where it says merge scope, we're going to click part 1 because we want to add this to part 1. Now let's go back and copy. We want start profile, normal to profile, 0.5, and end profile, normal to profile, end 1. So let's go back and do that. So start profile, normal to profile, start magnitude, 0.5. End profile, normal to profile, and magnitude 1. What normal to profile means, it means it's going to start out perpendicular to the plane that the sketch defines, and it gives it a particular look in a particular shape. Okay, and let's just make sure that that was everything we needed. Looks like it. Now we get to click on the sketch faces. So I'm going to go back, and going from top to bottom, I'm going to click first this one. Uh-oh, I got it. Nope. Got to hit profiles first. I'm going to click this one, then this one, then this one. And look at that. We're making a funnel. Ain't it pretty? Okay, now I'm going to accept that loft. That is probably one of the most challenging parts of this whole thing, and we successfully navigated it, so we feel pretty awesome right now. All right, next we're going to go on to slide 10, and it says shell out the funnel. Start a new shell feature with focus on the faces to remove field. That's right here. Select the top and bottom faces of the loft labeled A. Set the shell thickness to 0.05 inches and accept the feature. And then it says the shell feature failed to complete. This is because it's also trying to shell the handle and there's not enough clearance. Okay, so they're going to have us do something that doesn't work only to show us why and how to fix it. So, and that's okay. So the shell feature is over here. I'm gonna actually change the dimension first to 0.05. I'm gonna click 0.05, and then watch what happens when I select those faces. I'm going to select that face, and I'm going to select that face, and it's exactly like they said. And what they meant was it thinks we want to hollow out the handle too, but there's not enough clearance to make a shell in there. Okay, and we don't really want to hollow it out anyway. So how do we fix it? Well, that's the next step. So we're going to go to the next slide. Edit the loft to fix the error. Edit the loft feature for the funnel. Change the tab to new. This creates a separate part. Okay, so we're going to go back to our loft and change it to new. So I'm going to do that first. So I'm going to accept the shell. I'm going to go back and double click my loft and change it to new and accept it. Okay, so now it's as if it were two different parts, and you're like, hey, look at that. And again, it's not trying to hollow out the handle now because it's not part of the part anymore. But the problem is we don't really want it to be two parts, do we? So now we got to fix that. Press the final button to see if it repairs the error. Since shell 1 only affects the funnel piece, now the error is cleared, accept the feature. Okay, we did that. But now we want to combine them. Combine the parts back into one. Start a new Boolean feature, select union. Okay, Boolean means, well, if you study computer science, you know that a Boolean is a way of creating conditions where you can create and or, and nor, which means, you know, I don't know. It probably doesn't make sense in this context, but it is something that shows up in other places. And let's just do what it says. With the focus in the tools field, select the two parts graphically or from the parts list. That's how I'm going to do it. Accept the feature to combine the parts into one. Okay, so we're going to get the Boolean, which is this thing, and union, right? Tools, I'm going to click part 1 and part 2. So it's basically saying, let's combine these guys. Okay, now the other thing to notice is see where it says keep tools? In ours, it auto-selected. We actually don't want that. In other words, I don't know. It's hard to explain, but it would have made like a duplicate of the parts, and we really don't want that. So so there you go. Okay, so let's go back, accept that, and move on. So we now have a single part again, and it's basically looks like a funnel. So let's go on to the next slide, and we're gonna pretty it up a little bit. We're gonna start a fillet feature around those edges here, 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 and here. And with focus and entities to fillet, we're gonna select all those edges. Keep the default values for radius and distance for measurement and control respectively. Set the radius for 0.5. So let's get the fillet feature. I'm going to change that to 0.5. It says keep everything as default. So I want that edge. I want that edge. I want that edge. And I want that edge. And why isn't it letting us do that? Well, let's go back and check. I told you this one really gave me some issues. Allow edge overflow. Maybe that's a problem. Let's scroll down. I don't see anything. Let's go back and double check. Tangent propagation. That's good. Radius distance. Let's go check that. We got width distance. We want it to be radius and distance. There we go. And now I have to go back and make that 0.5 again. It said leave it as default. They lied to us. Here we go. Now it looks absolutely beautiful, and we can accept that. This is what I'm saying. Sometimes the instructions are good. Sometimes they're not perfect. All right. Next, we are going to create a little, this is kind of interesting. We're going to make a profile to make a fun little edge on this thing. So start a new sketch on the front plane. Draw an arc to create a complete half circle with its center piercing or coincident to the top handle as shown. Draw 3 lines to close the profile. The bottom horizontal line is coincident with the bottom face of the handle. All right, so again, front plane. So I'm going to create a sketch. I'm going to scroll up, right click on, not on front plane, make a new sketch, and then I'm going to hit N to look at it normal, and then I'm going to kind of zoom in over here because this is where we're making all our fun stuff. So we're supposed to create an arc. Now, I'm actually going to use a center point arc because they said the center needs to be right there. But you notice I don't have anything to click on. Let's project that edge in there, and then we will have something to click on. So I'm going to go back to my center point arc, click here. I'm going to roll out a bit, click, roll it around until it's horizontal again, and click. Now I'm going to make those 3 lines. I'm going to click, I'm going to go down to there, and you notice it's locking in. It's actually locking with the origin, but that's where that plane happens to coincide. So I'm going to click, I'm going to go over, I'm going to come up here so I can reference that, click, and double click to end it. Okay, now we need some dimensions to make it right. We need the radius to be 0.125, and that should fix everything. So let's go back, get our dimension tool, 0.125, and bingo, we got it. So we're going to accept our sketch, and we're going to move on to slide 15. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a grip using the sweep feature. So if we look at our, let's read and just make sure that we know what's going on. The sweep feature requires a profile and a path to follow. In this case, the path is the top edge of the funnel rim. So a sketch is not necessary for the path. Start a new sweep feature, choose solid and add to add it to the existing part. With focus in the faces and sketch regions to sweep field, select the profile sketch. Okay. With the focus in the sweep path field, Select all the edges that make up the outer edge of the funnel rim and handle. Okay, so let's break that down. Let's start the feature first. We're going to do a sweep. Actually, what we're first going to do is we're going to make it isometric. Yeah, much easier to see what's going on. I'm going to drag that so we can see it a little better. And now let's grab the sweep feature. Solid add. Okay, so faces and sketch regions of sweep. So the first thing I'm going to do is click on the face of my little sketch. Okay, and the sweep path is going to be all these edges that go all the way around. Okay, so I'm going to start here and then keep clicking and clicking. And I'm going to roll around to the other side so I can see that little segment. And there, and one more, and bingo. All right, looking cool. Accept the sweep. Let's go back and see what we got to do. Next slide. Finish the funnel. We're going to start a new extrude feature. Choose solid and add to attach it to the existing part. Set the end condition to blind, the opposite direction arrow if needed, and select the depth to 1. So let's go back here and roll it to the underside. And we're going to make this, I'm going to get it so it's slightly 3D looking. We're going to select an extrude. I'm going to select that little profile right there. Oh, it's already in the right direction. It's already 1 inch. Wow, they made it easy for us. And there you go. Look at that. And now we're going to go back and we're going to make a new material for it. So we're going to right click on the part. We're going to rename it funnel. And then we're going to also right click on it and assign material polypropylene. So first I'm going to right click on the part, rename it funnel. I'm going to right click it, go up to assign material, and you just click up here and start typing it. Whoops, it didn't, hold on. You turd. Okay, wait, hold on a second. Oh, I'm being dumb. I was clicking on the wrong spot. All right, there it is, polypropylene. You don't have to type the whole thing, it'll show up. Click it, accept it. Now we've made it out of a particular plastic. And why do we do that? Well, watch what happens when we go to test it. We're going to go to the next slide. We're going to select the funnel and look at its mass properties. Now, the mass properties will change depending on what material. If I made it out of steel, it would be much, much more massive than by making it out of polypropylene. So we have to select some material, otherwise it's not going to give us anything useful when we go to check it. So I'm going to go back, I'm going to right click on it, or no, I'm sorry, left click on it, go get the mass properties, and I got 0.098 pounds. And if we go back here, we're going to select on next page, begin self-check, and hopefully 0.098 is there. Yay, look at that. It better be right. It is right. All right, we're awesome. So there you go, how to make the funnel. That is a challenging one, but it's not too challenging for us because we rule. All right, there you go, guys. And hopefully you found this helpful, and you can complete this as well.